Hello and welcome to the Man and Machine technical demonstration for importing an Inventor model into Revit. My colleague David Wilkinson, our Inventor and Revit expert, will demonstrate how easy it is to do this.
I'm going to go through this quickly because the Inventor side of it's not really the focus for today, but basically we've got an Inventor assembly. This is only a very simple assembly, but the complexity doesn't matter. We can use the same techniques with whatever it is. It's a part which is the vessel shape with some branches on it and then two flanges that are from content center. What we're going to do first of all is simplify the design. So we're simply going to say create this as a simplified component as a single part. So I'm not bothered about the assembly data at all. So I come in and tell it I want to recognize information so that I can bring that across to Revit, and I'm not bothered about the internals of this, so I'm simply going to cap off, and I could choose an automatic option here, but I want to keep the bolt holes. If I choose that, it's now filled that in completely. So from a geometry point of view, it's far simpler. I can then ask it to recognize different features for Revit. So Revit could actually recognize these things as extrusions and part of the modeling environment, so we can modify it in Revit if we wanted to. We don't have to do that, but I've just chosen to in this case. And then once we've finished that, I could export that to Revit now, and I can pick it up in Revit and use it. But as it stands at the moment, that we need some more information. We need some connection points on here because these are flanges, but we also need the Kobe information putting in there. And we can do that in Revit, or something that we've done at Man and Machine is we've written a couple of little routines. In fact, we're now creating a BIM toolbox for Inventor, which allows us to populate property information according to BIM. So a standard dialog box to enter information. These are all the fields that are required for the BIM standard or the Kobe standard. Okay. So if I just drop some details in here, I'm not going to fill them all out obviously. So now MM123 and material, let's say copper for today. Okay. So that's me done. If I now go to our BIM exchange tool within Inventor, I can say, well, I can just send this straight out, or we can say I want to specify some connectors. So that there is a connector, it's circular, it's picked the right size up already, but I could override that obviously. And it's domestic hot water. I've got more property information in here that I can fill out now, and this all goes towards your BIM information. I'm not going to populate any of that for what we're doing. And if I do the same on here, just flip the direction around this time, say that's cold water. So I've preset the connectors on here ready for Revit, but I've done it in Inventor because the design guy knows what he's designing this, so he knows what these values are. It makes sense for him to put that information in rather than somebody having to do it in Revit. Once I've got that done, I can then save this. So if we, let's just, in fact, I can leave it there, call it equip, and then if I just orientate it correctly, it's going to be saved as a Revit family file, an RFA file, so all the information's there. At the moment this is the property detail, but if I choose to include all property information, you can see now all that BIM information is automatically being exported, including the ones that I modified. Okay. And if I save this away, and if I drop this into our demo folder, let's call it demo heater for today. What's going to happen is it's now translating the Inventor data into Revit data and building a family in the background. So it's processing this through, as you can see the progress bar going across. Once that's done, it's a fully fledged Revit file, and we'll go and have a look at that briefly in Revit. Almost there. There we go. So you have a report just to tell you if there's any problems or it's encountered any issues. In this case not, that's usually the case. So if we go back to Revit briefly, and basically say, right, I want to insert a component now. Well, that's one I've done before. If I choose to load that in, so if I come in here and say BIM demo, I want demo heater. So it's going to load that equipment in. As you can see, I've got that in there. I would have got one I've done before as well. So I can now drop that in anywhere inside of my model, just as I did before, with windows and doors. So that's me creating a BIM model inside of Inventor and then sending it directly to Revit, or saving it and then utilising it in Revit just by loading it in. If you look there as we look on the actual BIM model, you can see we've got the specifications for the connections. And if I come in here, we've got information here. But if I go and edit the type, all these D values here are dimensional values that's come from Inventor because I chose the way I chose to do it. I could actually modify these parameters and change the size and shape of that model in Revit if I wanted to. So we're probably not too interested in that, so the dimensional information is off. But if we then scroll down the list, all our COBie information or BIM information is actually here. So heater, MM123 and copper. That's what I authored in Inventor and sent directly to Revit. So that is our BIM model done from Inventor and utilised in Revit. That's a huge benefit for manufacturers who have to produce BIM models, so that we can do that directly in Inventor and then generate those files and publish them out to the web or wherever it is they need to be utilised.